I need to make an example of Donny Blaze.
No judge is going to take this seriously unless we do things by the book.
Book of Ashanti.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my full She-Hulk episode 4 video. There were a whole bunch of Marvel Easter eggs, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. I'm doing videos for all the episodes, just like I do for the other Marvel Disney Plus series. Marvel Disney Plus Day is also happening this weekend. There's supposed to be a bunch of big trailers, a bunch of big announcements. Of course, I'll be doing videos for all that stuff as well, too. Careful for spoilers for the episode. If you haven't seen it yet, we'll start at the beginning and work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments as we go along. Starting with the episode title, the episode was called Is This Not Real Magic?, which is a reference to Wong suing the magician pretending to be a full-blown sorcerer. Turns out there was a student at Kamar-Taj, but it was just a total dirtbag, and they kicked him out after a week, and he stole a sling ring and has just been causing trouble at his magic venue ever since. Using the most Ghost Rider name he could possibly think of, the showrunner actually explained what was going on with the Ghost Rider name because he's calling himself Donny Blaze. Obviously, that's meant to be a reference to Johnny Blaze. The fire dimension that he keeps sending people to is supposed to be a reference to Marvel's version of Hell. There are a couple different dimensions in the MCU that you could call Hell, just in general, like they're called the Hell Lords, and there are a couple major characters that you associate with that, like you can make all the Mephisto jokes that you want. Madison keeps talking about a demon that she made a contract with, like she sold her soul to be sent back home. That's what they basically showed during the post-credit scenes, like her signing her soul away. I gave a couple drops of my blood, signed a contract, and it sent me back. I'm not allowed to talk about it. The goat-looking demon is another reference to a version of the devil, like it's a form that the devil takes, but the name tag on it that says Jake in the end credit scene is depicted as if it's drawn by the court artist based on what Madison told them, so it's like his account of what Madison remembered kind of wrong, so the demon's name probably wasn't Jake. I couldn't actually find any demons in Marvel Comics whose names start with a J, so I just assumed that Madison probably got that part wrong because she kind of brushes over a lot of what happened, like, there was this fire dimension, there was a goat-looking demon that I sold my soul to, it's all fine. No big deal, he's just gonna steal my soul and the souls of all the people that I love if I tell too many people about this. Because this is Wong, we're dealing with Doctor Strange mythology from the comics. Obviously, they've been setting up a lot of more supernatural stuff just in the MCU in general, heading on the path to introducing characters like Ghost Rider. I believe the actual dimension that she was sent to is the same dimension that you see Doctor Strange and America Chavez traveling through as they go through the multiverse. Like in the background, it looks kind of like this, and it looks a little bit like Mephisto's dimension in the comics too. But that's basically the references that they're going for, like, okay, yeah, we're going for Ghost Rider stuff here. The actual opening scene of the episode starts with a metal cover and the magician, Donny Blaze, pretending to use magic with a little bit of real magic thrown in there. When he mentions Billy Shakes, that's a reference to William Shakespeare, a rose by any name. And the venue that he's working at is called the Mystical Castle. That's an Easter egg for the real-life Los Angeles area Magic Castle. But they basically explain he got his hands on the sling ring when he was briefly a student at Kamar-Taj. And they make a bunch of jokes about Wong not forming actual contracts or getting anything in writing with any of the potential students that come along through Kamar-Taj. Maybe he's going to change that after the events of this episode. Wong is chilling out, getting ready to watch Sopranos episodes on this giant flat-screen TV. Turns out he has a lot of modern amenities. They made a couple of jokes about that during the first Doctor Strange movie, like, oh, here's the Wi-Fi password, like they actually have Wi-Fi, even though it seems super old-timey. In last week's episode, they also revealed his LinkedIn page. He worked at a Target in Kamar-Taj, so like even though it doesn't seem like it, Kamar-Taj probably has a bunch of regular businesses that you would see in any other big city. Madison then explains how she gets sent back to this 616 MCU universe by selling her soul to the demon. The other thing here is that this event with Madison seems like it's the straw that broke the camel's back for him, like that's enough. Mostly because he got his episode of The Sopranos spoiled for him and he blames Donny Blaze for it, and he vows revenge. Then Jennifer Walters breaks the fourth wall, one of many, many fourth wall breaks in the episode. There are like several of them, way more than previous episodes. Joking about how everybody is super happy because Wong is back, calling it Twitter armor, like Twitter will be nicer to the episode because of all the Ghost Rider and the Wong stuff. Then when they go to her office and they show you like the super long to-do list that she has, she says she's buying purple and green highlighters because they're Hulk colors. She's buying much larger clothes that will fit her in She-Hulk form. That kind of happens through the course of the episode too, where she seems like she's going to be spending more time in She-Hulk form just because all the guys that she's trying to date seem like they're way more into the thick version of Jennifer Walters' She-Hulk than they are to the regular version. Like there's all these things in her life, all these different aspects of her life that are telling her that she'd be better off in She-Hulk form. There's another joke about wasting chopsticks, buying more, and buying way more Cheetos because she's eating way more Flamin' Hot Cheetos on the regular and she eats them with chopsticks. That's a big callback to the first episode, and it's also an Oscar Isaac joke because in real life, just like completely separately, before Oscar Isaac did all the Moon Knight stuff, there was this funny photo of him eating Flamin' Hot Cheetos with chopsticks. But there are actually a lot of people in real life that said that they do that too. Then when they scroll way down the list, there's a whole bunch of names of big comic book creators at Marvel in the form of cases that she's working on. So Kraft v. Sewell is David Anthony Kraft, who worked on a bunch of Incredible Hulk comics for a while, and Charles Soule, who writes a ton of the Star Wars comics that Marvel publishes. The Lee vs. Byrne is Jim Lee and John Byrne. Jim Lee famously worked on a bunch of Marvel comics before he went to DC and did a lot of his own stuff. And the big John Byrne Easter egg here too is because he actually wrote the sensational She-Hulk comic book, which was the comic where she started breaking the fourth wall, which she does so many times in this episode and the rest of the series just in general. And all that started years before Deadpool started breaking the fourth wall. So maybe someday they'll meet in the MCU and they'll have some jokes about that. In real life, Tatiana Maslany was also making jokes about this too, because she's from Canada in real life, and so is Ryan Reynolds. So because the characters they play are so meta, she was suggesting that they play on that with a scene where they're talking in character about being from Canada, but then they break character and start talking to each other like they're from Canada and just go back and forth. The whole thing with the Jansen class action, I think, is a reference to Klaus Janson, who worked on a ton of Marvel comics, and I think the class action is just a joke about all the Marvel artists getting pissed in real life at Marvel for not actually paying them extra commissions when they adapt the comic stories that they created for the movies and the shows. Like, that is a thing in real life. They set up that MCU version of Tinder called Matcher for all the She-Hulk dating that she does in the series. Like, they do it in this episode, but it'll probably continue through the rest of the series. You can guess what her password might be, but on the next page, there's another QR code that you can scan on this screen to get another free She-Hulk comic book. They did the same thing during Moon Knight, where like in most of the episodes, there's a QR code you can scan to get free comic books. She breaks the fourth wall again to tell us her profile is perfect, but then Nikki rips it apart and they set the whole idea of her creating a dating profile for She-Hulk, which is something that they actually did in real life. Marvel created an actual profile for She-Hulk on the real-life Tinder app. You can let me know if you actually used the app and you saw her, like you matched with She-Hulk. Like, oh, I matched with somebody. Wait a minute, it's She-Hulk. Is this a real thing? What? No kink shaming here, because it also seems like in the MCU, people really want the thicker version of Jen, She-Hulk, than they want actual Jennifer Walters. It does seem like this is the horniest Marvel series that we've had so far. Wong then shows up in her office and explains the Donnie Blaze backstory and how he wants to sue her, and they make a whole bunch of references. I already explained his backstory, like how he came to Kamartaj for a brief period, and while he was on the way out, he must have stolen the sling ring, and that's how he's causing all these problems. When he gets into the idea of inexperienced people experimenting in interdimensional travel, that's another reference to all the mistakes and craziness that will be caused during the events of Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Like, they're going to do something just as bad multiple times very soon. Also, the larger stuff like untangling the material and astral planes is a bigger deal, I think, and probably more of a reference to Avengers 5, Kang Dynasty, and Avengers 6, Secret Wars, with the eventual collapse of the entire multiverse in all reality in the incursions. There are a couple references to that later in the episode too, and I think it's all references to the incursions and stuff that we just saw in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. When they start making the jokes about the contracts that they actually form at Kamartaj, like, we actually abide to a higher law, the time-space continuum, that's another Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty incursions reference. In Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, when Reed Richards talks about him destabilizing the multiverse and leading to more incursions, it's kind of that energy. When he mentions the Book of Vishanti, obviously we saw a version of that during Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. The whole idea with that is that it's kind of like the Darkhold Temple. It's not like the Darkhold book. They said that there's only one Book of Vishanti for the entire multiverse, and the Illuminati characters had just built a back door to the book itself. So when Scarlet Witch basically burns it up there, they burn the only copy of the book. The guy that tries to hit on them is just meant to be like a rando, skeezy, married dude. Like, he's literally listed as married person in the credits. It's just meant to set up all the bad dates that she's about to go on as Jennifer Walters. Not that the dates as She-Hulk are that much better. Like, she has that one good date, but also as She-Hulk, even though she gets way more matches, she still has a bunch of bad dates. They joke about the actual She-Hulk name becoming catchier and catchier, her getting more comfortable with it, but I think that's meant to set up next week's episode with the whole Titania lawsuit. I'll explain what's going on with that in a second too. I couldn't find any Marvel Easter eggs in the Cornelius P. Willow's name, but I already explained how this is meant to be a Magic Castle reference to the place in Los Angeles in real life. They have the joke about not being able to copyright art, which is obviously a lie. Like as she says in the episode, you can totally copyright art. Wong also kind of lies a little bit too when he says the Sorcerer Supreme doesn't engage in competition because we literally last week's episode just saw him fighting the Abomination. When she goes on the first batch of bad dates as Jennifer Walters, the guy says he got banned from Canada. Like I said, it's meant to be an Easter egg to Tatiana Maslany in real life being from actual Canada, like Ryan Reynolds. Then when they have the trial the next day, Donnie Blaze's lawyer looks a little bit like Dan Slott. It's not Dan Slott like it's a completely different person, but it does look a lot like him, and he is a longtime Marvel writer. When Wong asks for mercy from Quan Yi, that's actually an Iron Fist Easter egg. As far as I can tell, one of the first Iron Fist Easter eggs they've legit had in the MCU since they canceled the Iron Fist in the Marvel Netflix series like Daredevil. Obviously, we have the new Daredevil series coming back. Maybe there'll be some Iron Fist Easter eggs now that a lot of those characters are coming back. Like Punisher will also come back eventually too. Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. Pretty much all those Marvel Netflix characters are like slowly being folded back into the MCU in different series and movies. Also, you have the idea that Daredevil will cameo in a couple more episodes. But the character Quan Yi is actually the Taoist god of mercy, which is why he asks her for extra mercy. And a lot of these scenes with Madison are just meant to set up the post-credit scene where she and Wong hang out. Like she talks about how she's best friends with Wong now and he can't stand her. But they actually do go get Froyo right after this. Like, okay, fine, we'll go get Froyo, but no more spoiling The Sopranos for me. When Wong says Donnie Blaze seeks to wield the power of gods, in Marvel Comics, it's a little bit different the way they explain Doctor Strange's magic and a lot of the other big characters. Certain gods do grant them powers, like Doctor Strange and the other magic users. Comic book Doctor Strange gets most of his energy to power his spells by forming a contract with the actual Vishanti gods. They're a trio of cosmic gods, like you talk about all the gods that we saw during Thor Love and Thunder, but they changed that a little bit for the movies. I talked a lot about this during my Doctor Strange 2 Easter egg videos, because a lot of it gets into the Book of the Vishanti and the way they're referencing that. His whole speech about one man causing great harm, ripples so great that they reverberate through the entire multiverse, is also a reference to, you probably guessed it, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, because during that movie, multiple characters tell versions of that speech to Doctor Strange. It's also kind of a reference to what he does during Spider-Man No Way Home. Wong also references the mirror dimension, saying that he should just throw Donnie Blaze in there, which they pay off in the end credit scene. Like you see him trapping Donnie Blaze in there as if he finally did that after the case was over. I felt like that was actually funnier than the real post-credit scene. Then she creates her dating profile as She-Hulk, breaks the fourth wall again 2 times in a row, goes on more bad dates. One of them is like a super fan of She-Hulk and other superheroes because of her fight with Titania in court, and then makes a bunch of Incredible Hulk references talking about Bruce Banner Hulk. You can think of that as like a multiple level Easter egg, like they're referencing the events of the Incredible Hulk, they're referencing the Incredible Hulk comic books, and it sounds like within the MCU, people actually call Bruce Banner the Incredible Hulk. We did see Thor in Thor Love and Thunder wearing the hat with the Avengers title from the comics on it, so it does sound like a lot of the merchandise that sold for these characters in-universe references a lot of the slogans from the comics. The fanboy starts asking her all kinds of super deep, geeky questions about her powers and whether or not she could withstand vibranium, making more Black Panther references. Like she's gone on a date with a comic book convention, basically. She breaks the fourth wall again, and then eventually Donnie Blaze opens another portal to another dimension, trying to send someone back, and winds up freeing the small demons. I couldn't find any specific references to particular comic book demons, like none of the comic book demons look like these demons, so they might have created these just for the episode. While this is happening, we see Wong watching the This Is Us episodes on his TV, setting up the post-credit scene, because that's what they're watching in the post-credit scene. And She-Hulk is in the middle of getting ready to perform Death by Snoo Snoo with her date as she breaks the fourth wall again, and Wong totally cockblocks them. They have their big team-up moment where they both use their powers to throw all the demons through another portal to what seems like a frozen dimension. Maybe it's Niflheim, maybe it's Jotunheim. She breaks the fourth wall again during their fight. And I think their big team-up moment here is meant to be sort of a precursor for what it's going to look like when she teams up with other Avengers characters in future movies, like a bigger version of what you're seeing happen here. Just in the way that Marvel characters eventually start combining their powers. You also start looking around the background of the magic venue. There's a Thurston poster that might be a reference to the Thurston Comedy Club that one of Patton Oswalt's characters on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. worked at. They also did versions of Ghost Rider during that series, and they're referencing Ghost Rider during this episode, so you could think of it sort of like a connection with all those different things. When we go back to her date, he's reading a book by Roxane Gay. She's also written some of the more recent Black Panther comics too, like she's another Marvel comic book creator. And we get our Death by Snoo Snoo moment. Everyone pour one out for that dude, taking one for the team. He's gonna enjoy every minute of that.
Computer sentences them to death! By Snoo Snoo!
Yeah!
It would have been a little bit funnier if he had waddled out the next morning, but like they have that funny moment where she comes back as Jennifer Walters making breakfast, and he doesn't want to have anything to do with her, like, oh, wait a minute, you're regular? You know what, I'm gonna take off right now, goodbye. I think just setting up the idea that she's going to want to spend more and more time as She-Hulk just because it seems like everybody, for many different reasons in aspects of her life, like She-Hulk more than they like regular Jennifer Walters. And Titania sues her, claiming that her company owns the She-Hulk name trademark. Titania is a She-Hulk comic book character, like she's been a She-Hulk villain for a long time. So this is just setting up them going to court with each other in episode 5. What probably happened is that she's doing this to get back at Jennifer Walters using the courts to do it. Titania probably just trademarked the name before Jennifer Walters thought to do it, and people do this in real life all the time to try and work some sort of settlement out with them. Like, you gotta pay me a lot of money now. It's just a way to extort money out of people. And she breaks the fourth wall again, talking about how the ending is a downer, but the actual post-credit scene is gonna be way more fun. She did this in last week's episode too, like, we all realize you're watching for the really cool cameo that's going to happen in this episode, but there's actually a lot of other stuff going on too, and it's meant to be my series. Like, she's joking about how people aren't remembering that it's actually her series. During the end credits with all the courtroom art, the new scenes that they added are Madison signing her contract, selling her soul away, apparently in this hell dimension, with the goat demon, who is wearing the Jake name tag, but the whole idea, like I said, is that this is sort of like a courtroom artist depiction of what Madison told him, and it's Madison kind of misremembering things a little bit. This is She-Hulk just cleaning off the demon gunk before she goes back for Death by Snoo Snoo, and then Donnie Blaze stuck in the mirror dimension, paying off Wong's threat. Probably my favorite scene from like all the new post-credit scenes. I wonder how long Wong trapped him in there. And in the actual post-credit scene, Wong and Madison just hang out together watching the This Is Us episode, talking about all the drinks that they've tried, and her getting excited about trying goat's milk that they have left over from the last big wedding they performed at Camartage. Next week's episode will be a big Titania episode. We'll see which other big cameos and references that they make and other Abomination stuff that might be going on. If you spotted any other Easter eggs or references in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. My full episode 5 video will post next week just like normal. My House of the Dragon episode 4 video will post this weekend. There's a bunch of series that I'm doing episode videos for right now, and we have all the Marvel Disney Plus Day trailers that'll be coming this weekend. So whatever it is they drop, big announcements, trailers, I'll do videos for all that stuff. So make sure you have alerts enabled for my channel. Probably gonna get a bunch of Fantastic Four news as well too. Everyone click here for my House of the Dragon episode 4 trailer video, and click here for my full House of the Dragon episode 3 video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.